McCown and Shannon back with you. I'm watching the Blue Jays spring training game yesterday, and I've seen, I guess, three of them or so. And I don't know how long it was, maybe 2.5 hours, but the games seem to be zipping by. And I must say, I am quite surprised by this. I mean, I'm a guy, I think we all remember the days when Doc Holliday used to throw, complete games in 2 hours. And gradually we've gotten to the point of 3.5 hours games are regular. To be back at 2.5 now is really intriguing, and I'm very impressed that the changes that they've made have picked up the pace as much as they have. Maury Brown of Forbes magazine joins us now. Are you as surprised that this has been as successful as it has been, Maury?
Well, I think surprising that the fans have embraced it as much as they have. I thought that there would be a lot of pushback, and the idea that we would have a clock in baseball is pretty jarring, right?
Yeah.
But overall, I think overall, for all the reasons that you mentioned, I think that it really does make for a better experience. And we're starting to see some video clips now. I remember this was a while back there that a two pitch delivery from Zach Greinke ran in the total time that it took to run the Kentucky Derby. And I mean, that kind of tells you everything, right? And there's some other stuff. If there's a Twitter account called Pitching Ninja that this morning showed that an entire half inning was done basically during the time that it took one pitcher to deliver one pitch a season or so ago. So look, I mean, it has changed a lot. I mean, you mentioned 3.5, 4 hour games. I mean, let's get baseball back into baseball as opposed to a lot of dead time. And with the other changes, I think that you're going to see increased action and you're going to see it at a crisper pace.
Yeah.
Now that said, it is spring training, and there's a different approach by teams to get pitchers into games. Correct?
Yeah, I suppose that there is that, but I would look, as I've looked at the box scores, that in spring training you actually use quite a few pitchers, right? I mean, your starter certainly isn't going to be stretched out. You're trying to do that, but I think the thing that's telling is it is spring training, and with that you're going to see a lot of instances where some minor league guys are going to go out there and maybe be in a little bit longer, and that runs are substantial. I mean, we've seen a couple of games that are 19, 18, 17 runs, and they're still getting in under 2.5 hours. So I really think that tells you something, that you're going to be able to see more action. You're going to potentially see more runs, but I don't think it's going to come at this 3.5, 4 hour pace. I think the days of the 3.5, 4 hour Red Sox Yankee tilts are probably done. I really do. I mean, you're going to see maybe 3 hours and 15 minutes. But I just don't see it being much longer than that.
Do you think this will have any effect on pitchers long term? Because they're throwing more pitches in a shorter period of time.
Yeah, that's the prevailing question. Now look, we've gotten to the point to where pitchers have to throw to at least 3 batters. But rosters were expanded. So we have seen an increased use in relievers. And I think that you'll see, I think that will increase. I think that you are going to start to see that sort of thing. It is a legitimate question. And I don't know if we're going to have enough information about that until we get maybe to the All-Star break, right? I mean, that's where seasons start to get made, largely from the All-Star break out. Yeah. But, I think we're going to see pitcher fatigue. I think that is going to be part of it.
Maury, it's interesting. We're going to see bigger bullpens then? Bigger rosters in the bullpens?
Yeah, I think that we've already started to see it. I mean, we've started to see, the use of much more relievers. This was happening before, though. What's happened is, of course, we've started to see increased velocity with movement. And I mean, now, we've been mowing the days that what happened to pitchers? I mean, you mentioned a complete game. Those days are largely done mostly because pitchers are throwing so hard. I mean, they are throwing, you're right on the edge of 100-mile-an-hour slider. And that's pretty amazing in my mind. It really is something. So it is you are already seeing pitchers under a lot of duress and a lot of stress. And that's why we started to see the quote unquote opener and seeing, the starter only go maybe 3 or 4 innings and before you start to get into the bullpen.
Listen, the Blue Jays were among the many teams that limited their starting pitching or their starting pitchers to, as you say, 3, 4, 5 innings. If they went 6, that was a big deal. Mm-hmm. And we all grew up in an era where, there were guys that threw 10 complete games in a year. And not just a few of them. There were a lot of them. Now a complete game is, it's not that it won't happen, but it'll happen very, very rarely. And yet, what was interesting, in watching the Jays spring training game against the Tigers, they were discussing the Blue Jays' desire to have their starting pitchers go longer, which is counter, I guess, to the theory that, with this pitch clock, it may work the other way. Which do you think is more likely?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know if I have the answer for it. I could see it going either way. I really do. I mean, if there's an ability for this to be more crisp, right, and you're getting in and out of it, then it's there. Look, there are some mechanisms in place, right? Pitchers can throw over to first a couple times. There are some mechanisms to try and not make it to where a guy's arm is going to fall off. But look, I don't see how you're not going to see a little bit of fatigue in this. So it'll be interesting to watch. I mean, if the Blue Jays honestly do that, I think it'll be interesting to see. I think the bigger thing is, here we are in the infancy of this thing in the majors. It's been in the minors for a while, and they did that for quite a while and used the data Major League Baseball did to make this decision. But I don't know if we're going to see the ramifications of it, or who will have the advantage, the pitcher or the batter in this. Max Scherzer already said that he believes that he's going to have an advantage with the pitch clock and likes it. So again, I think we're going to start to see it, as with any new change to any sport, it's which team adapts to it the quickest and which ones take advantage of the situation before anybody else.